Again, thank you families for joining us. Thank you AIG team for preparing this presentation for tonight, and I will turn it over to you.
Okay, good evening. I'm Carrie Childers. I am the AIG coordinator for grades K-12 for Cumberland County Schools. And I have with me, starting the presentation with me tonight, Arisha Smalls. Arisha, could you introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arisha Smalls, and I'm the Elementary AIG Program Specialist.
And this is a session for grades 4 through 12. Some of it may work for younger elementary students as well. So that's fine if you're in here and you're wanting to know a little more about your young students. But we're going to get started, and throughout the presentation, I am going to introduce you to some other AIG folks who are going to be helping me with this evening. So let's go ahead and get started. Our very first thing we want to do, we like to start our AIG classes off at our schools with something that gets the kids comfortable, just kind of loosens them up, makes them excited about whatever it is that they're going to be doing that day in class. And so I wanted to do that with this group, kind of get you relaxed. You probably had a long day. We've all been working today too. So we kind of want to start it off with something called myth or truth. Some of these, when you first hear them, you're going to think, what does this have to do with gifted students? Well, I promise you that the information you're going to learn right here, you're going to realize, gifted students and gifted people love to be curious, and they love to think they know everything. So sometimes what looks like useless facts to some are very exciting for our kids and for us. So let's start with myth or truth and think about everything you know is wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something up on the screen. It's going to be a statement. And what I'd like for you to do is think to yourself, do I think this is a myth or a truth? Once you have determined what it is, I want you to type it like you're going to put it in the chat, but I do not want you to hit submit until I tell you to, because then we're going to do what's called flood the chat, where everybody's answer is going to come in all at once. And then we'll talk about that. And we're going to explain to you if it's actually a myth or truth. So let's get started with our first one. People only use 10% of their brains. Do you think that's a myth or truth? And you can put M or T and get ready, because when I count down, I want you to hit submit and put it in the chat box. So 3, 2, 1, flood the chat.
Whoa, the chat is blowing up, Carrie.
I'm
so excited. I see that we have 45 participants. I'm so excited to see everybody here this evening. Okay, we have quite a few people saying that it is a myth. And it is a myth. We don't use 100% of our brains all of the time, but we do use different parts of our brains for different things, and it all gets used. So for number 1, people only use 10% of their brains. Myth.
All right, let's try the next one. Carrots improve your vision. So think about if you think it's a myth or a truth, and get ready. Put your M or T, and I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, flood the chat.
I love watching that happen. I think they're on to me. Okay, yes, it is a myth. They are good for you, but they do not make you see better. This is an idea that was a trick played by the Royal Air Force during World War II.
Bananas grow on trees. Myth or truth? And get ready. 3, 2, 1, flood the chat.
Okay, so quite a few people put truth on that one. And I'm so sorry to disappoint you, but bananas do not grow on trees. Now, they do grow as tall as trees, but they are made up of very large leaves, and the bananas grow in bunches, but not on trees.
Okay. And the final one, different parts of the tongue pick up different tastes. Do you think that's a myth or a truth? Get your M or T, and in 3, 2, 1, flood the chat.
Okay. So I know why. Well, I don't know why, but I can believe that people think that it's true, because I remember being in school and doing tongue mapping, but it's not true, you guys. The whole tongue can taste flavors, and the idea that the tongue has a taste map actually comes from a translation error made by German scientists in 1901. So I bet you're wondering why we are doing this activity. Well, we want to talk about what a myth is, what our working definition of a myth is for tonight. And it is information that has become widely accepted as true. Tonight, you are here to find out some myths surrounding gifted education, so that we can better support our students and help them become successful, more successful. So take it away, Carrie.
So we've already gone through a little introduction, and you've already gone through your workshop guidelines. Tonight, we are going to be talking about some myths and some truths of gifted education. And along with that, we are going to give you some resources that will help you as you work through those myths and truths, and to help your children at home. Then we'll have a closing time where we'll have some questions and answers. But what I want to do now is I want to introduce you to Catherine Wisnett, who is the AIG Middle School Specialist and Diagnostic Specialist for AIG. So Catherine?
Welcome. We're so glad that so many of you could join us tonight. So one of the things that, just like with our myths and truths and doing some examples, gifted kids love cartoons, and who doesn't need a little laugh and a little humor along the way? But cartoons actually provide a basis for a lot of truth as well. And so, yes, your gifted student may only go to the gifted teacher once or twice a week for 1 or 2 hours. However, they're gifted all day, every day. And that's really our goal in the gifted program, is to provide support, not only when the students come to see us and the other gifted teachers, but to also provide support to the classroom teacher to help meet their needs when they're there, because they're gifted when they're there as well. And we also want to be a resource for you, because when your child comes home, they're still gifted. And so, they all have unique needs and even challenges. Being a gifted student isn't always roses either. And so we hope that as you go through this presentation, you learn some things that are helpful to you as a parent, things that you can do at home to support your gifted student. And we also want you to know that we very much are here to support students, teachers, but we also want to be a resource for you as well.
So I want you to think for a minute, and I don't want you to put it in the chat yet. We're gonna flood the chat again, but I have a poll here. What percent of early elementary school material do gifted students already know on the first day of school? So I want you to think, is that 10%, 25%, 35%, or 50%? And I want you to put A, B, C, or D as your answer. And in 3, 2, 1, go ahead and flood the chat. And I'm going to have Bridget Hardwick, who is my AIG teacher at Van Story. Bridget, if you will open up and introduce yourself, and then tell us kind of what you're seeing in the poll.
Okay. Hi, I'm Bridget Hardwick, and I do work with 3rd through 5th grade at Van Story. In the chat, we have a lot of D's, 50%. We're kind of all over the place. We've got some A's and B's. I don't know. We'd like to know they know very little so we can teach them a lot, but I don't know, Carrie.
Okay, let's see. Let's go on. So, challenge me, gifted children. They actually know nearly 50% of early elementary school material on the very first day of class. And to have heard so many of you that chose 50%, it's clear that you already recognized that in your child when your child was young. And I want you to think about that as we go through this first myth in just a moment. I want you to imagine how frustrating it would have to be to sit through content that you already know. And then I want you to think about what AIG is providing your child that maybe they might not be getting in their regular classroom. This is giving them something different. So I want you to hear about our CCS values and what AIG, what we really feel like AIG means to us. And I am going to introduce you now to Makita Gilchrist, who is the AIG middle school teacher at Douglas Bird Middle, Ireland Drive Middle, and Westover Middle. So Makita, if you'll open up and speak to the parents.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So I want to just discuss for a brief moment our CCS values concerning our gifted education program. As a school district, we accept and understand gifted students' special needs and desire to provide necessary support for them, inherently believe in those gifted students, and we genuinely love their unique ideas, the way they challenge us and each other, and the questions they ask. They ponder and they think, and their brains are twirling, and how they look at the world, how they approach the world. So all in all, as a school system, we really strive, and that's our goal, is to provide that support for their unique needs. And our goal is not only, as Catherine said earlier, that they're gifted every day, all day, every day, and that we want to provide support not just for the student, but for the parents and families, and as well as the teachers that work with them closely in the classroom when they're not with their gifted teachers.
Hey, thank you. Arisha, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay, we would like for all of the parents to take this opportunity to kind of focus in on the real reason why we are here today, which is our children. So take a moment to pull up a photo on your phone, or if you're at home and you have one close by, pull a photo of your kid. Take them in, think about them deeply. And in the chat box, we would like for you to put one word that you feel like describes the true essence of your kid. But do not press enter just yet. So I'll give you a moment to do that. Okay, type it in the chat box. Oh, I see unique, beautiful, inquisitive, fun, outgoing, determined, exceptional, passionate, artistic, curious, attentive, all positive descriptives.
Very good.
We wanted you guys to have that picture close by while we're doing our session tonight, just to kind of focus us so that we know, remind us why we're here tonight, and we're here to figure out how to best support our gifted kid.
So let's get into our first myth tonight. And I want you to think about this as I read this. Gifted students don't need help. They'll do fine on their own. And I really want you to process that and think about this. Have you thought this before on your own, of your own child? Have you thought this of other children? And will they be fine on their own? So let's get to the truth. The truth is, gifted students need guidance from their parents, that's you, their parents, and well-trained teachers who are going to challenge and support them in order to fully develop their abilities. And I want you to understand that when we say gifted students don't need help, they'll do fine on their own, they do need help. And the only way to develop those abilities is we all have to work together to help them. We can't assume that just because they know it that they're going to be okay and don't need anything extra. So I'm going to call back on Catherine to really talk to you about what does that mean?
Okay, so the two things that we have listed here is, would you send a star athlete to train for the Olympics without a coach? You are your child's first coach. And so I was kind of thinking about this as I was thinking about what I would want to say, because I'm also the parent of two young children. I have a 3rd and a 5th grader. And, you know, and I would say, you know, for the most part, you know, they're pretty bright and they can do a lot on their own, but yet they still need me to come behind them and sort of be their cheerleader and their encourager. And when I thought about the first bullet, I was thinking about, you know, like I wouldn't send a highly skilled baseball player to a swimming coach, right? Because they don't know how to improve their skills, or to a coach who has very little experience. And so I think it's really important. Like, I think it's great that you guys are here tonight to learn a little bit more about how to support your gifted student. But also in the school system, we also encourage all of our teachers to have training how to work with gifted students. And in order to bring out students' abilities, they need to have opportunities where they're challenged, but also where they're encouraged. Because a lot of times we think, oh, well, gifted kids are going to be fine. They're going to get it. They get it really easily. Well, then the first time they come up against something that's a little more challenging, they can be tempted to give up. But that's because we've told them all along, well, you're smart, you should get this. No, that doesn't mean you're always going to get it right away. And so we want to be able to build perseverance into our students, but they need a safe place to be able to do that. That means they need a safe place at home to be able to fail and try again, and the same thing in the classroom. Many gifted students may be so far ahead of their same age peers that they know more than half of the grade level curriculum before the school year begins. And so I think that's really important from a teacher point of view, for them to understand that these kids are coming with a lot of knowledge. And so it doesn't mean that, oh, you just leave them over in the corner and they can do something on their own. You know, maybe they need to be provided opportunities to do different types of curriculum or different tasks. Or maybe it's just to take the same task that the class is doing, but going a little bit deeper. And so again, that's why we work really hard to pair not only with our students we want to provide support, but to work with our teachers and our parents. And I hope that if you're ever seeing some challenges with your student in the classroom or at home, that you would know that every school in Cumberland County has an AIG licensed teacher assigned to it that can be of support to you. And so we really do want to encourage our students to keep learning, because, you know, it's really easy to get burned out sometimes, but we really want them to be excited about learning and coming back to school each and every day. And what you do really does matter as a parent, and we really are glad that you're here tonight and that we're able to share some information with you, and even just to give you some faces of people that you know that you can contact when you're back in your schools.
So what do you do? What does this mean to help you with your child? I mean, what are you going to do at home to help your gifted child? Well, first of all, we want to be sure that you recognize their gifts and what they're bringing to the table. And along with that, you want to be sure that you are pursuing their interests. And so you know what your children are interested in, and that's something that you want to continue to push them and to help them grow in those areas. But also, you want to be an advocate for your child. And so if you're seeing things at school and you feel like that it's not working for them, as Catherine just stated, we do have an AIG certified teacher in every school. And that's your lifeline right there. I'd really make sure that you reach out to the AIG teacher, who can then help you if you needed additional activities or interest activities, anything that you need to help you with your gifted child. And then number 4, I really want you to hone in on this too. Introduce skills to prepare for higher education or career. And in parentheses, I put take your child to work. You know, that's always been something where, you know, before COVID, I know that, you know, kids would leave class to go to work with their parent. But I don't think we really think about the gifted child and the fact that you really want to show them already what you know. And I was reading an article, and it's called How to Challenge the Gifted Child at Home. And I'll reference it later in our resources. But what I found very interesting from this article is it said that before you look for outside activities, You need to look at your own special abilities. So think about the things that you're good at as the parent, that your hobbies, things that interest you. It doesn't mean that your child will always be interested in the same things you are. However, you want to showcase those things, and you want for your kids to see the things that you like and how you do that. And what I loved in the article, and I hope that I would get a chuckle from the group if I could hear you, is, parents of gifted children are usually gifted themselves, since intelligence is inherited. I'll just let you think on that a little bit, but definitely hone in on the interest, recognizing their gifts, be their advocate, and take them to work. Let them see what you do. Maybe it's something that they didn't know that they might like. And at this point, we're going to move on to Bianca McDavid. You will see a blue screen right now, so there's nothing on the screen yet. But Bianca McDavid is my middle school AIG teacher, and she serves Cumberland, a virtual academy. She also serves John Griffin Middle School. She works with Mac Williams Middle School, and she also does a little bit with our diagnostic work with AG. So she has quite a few titles. So Bianca, if you'll come on and introduce yourself a little bit, if I've missed anything, and then we'll get started on the next slide.
All right. Hi. Yes. Thank you, Carrie, for introducing me. And yes, I wear many hats. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some quotes that might bring some clarity of how it feels to be a gifted student. So once you know something, it's impossible to remember what it's like not to know it. And we've all experienced this feeling when forced to sit through something we already get. We've all experienced this feeling when forced to sit through something we already get. So gifted kids just simply have a higher minimum speed limit. So think about how that is portrayed in your student at home and how you can support them, because they're gifted, but they all have things that they struggle with and things that they're great at, and they work at different levels and different speeds. So the next thing I want you to think about is, what do you truly believe about gifted children? So just pause and ponder and think about this sentence. All children are gifted.
And we don't want you to put anything in the chat on that one necessarily. We just want you to think about that and what your truth is about that, or if you feel like that's a myth. And then as we move on, we're going to get to the meat of this one. So if we remember what Arisha said in the beginning when we were talking about myths, myths are things that have always been widely accepted as truths. And so a lot of times people will say, well, all children are gifted. But in the sense of what we're talking about, the truth is all children have strengths, all children have positive attributes, but not all children are gifted in the educational sense of the word. And that's what we work with on a day-to-day basis with students. And we identify them so that we can identify their unique needs that they have, where they need something that's different than just the regular curriculum. So I'm going to turn it over to Catherine Wisnan again to talk about, what does that mean?
So the label gifted in a school setting means that when we compare students to others of their grade or age, they have a higher capacity to learn and to apply what is learned in more areas. And I think sometimes this is one of those things that can kind of be touchy, especially in today's society. Saying your child is gifted or needs something different doesn't make you elitist or snobby or think we're better than anybody else, but all children deserve an appropriate education. And so what is appropriate for one student isn't appropriate for the other. And so I always like to get word pictures. I enjoy that. And so one of the things I was thinking about was, you can't give a bodybuilder and me the same workout, because if you do, two things are going to happen. One, it's way too easy for one of us, or it's going to be killing me. So it's the same thing with education. Like, we can't give everybody the same thing. And there's nothing wrong with giving different activities and different challenges. It doesn't mean that, oh, we're trying to keep the good stuff just for the gifted kids. It's not. There's great stuff out there for every student, and every student has the right to do exciting, interesting things. So do gifted students. Sometimes the level that they need, though, is just different. And if you give everybody the same thing, you know, your gifted students loving it and other students are drowning, or it's the other way around. We give things that are so easy that the gifted students just dying on the vine. They're not learning, we're wasting their time. So they're not getting an education that's appropriate for them. And even in our homes, sometimes between our children, like, doesn't make one child better than the other, but they need different experiences in order to be successful. And that's what we're wanting for all students. It's for all students to reach their maximum potential. And that's what the gifted program strives to do for these children who are able to learn more and go more deeply compared to other students in their same age and grade. They do require modification to the regular curriculum, because we want to make sure that they're challenged and they're not just sitting still and treading water, because that's exhausting day after day. Because again, I think like one of the things Bianca said, once you know something, there's no way to not know it. And then sometimes it's really hard to be patient with other people who don't, because you don't remember what it was like to not know it. You don't remember what it was like to struggle when you learned that. And so again, if everybody's being challenged, everybody's working and engaged in learning, and that's what we want. And gifted doesn't mean good or better. It is a term that allows students to be identified for services that meet their unique learning needs. All students have unique learning needs. All students need an appropriate education. Gifted students aren't the exception to that. Sometimes we kind of go back to that first myth. We sort of think, oh, they're just going to get it. No, they're not. They're not going to be growing. Sometimes they lose the love of learning. Gifted students drop out of school altogether because they're never engaged in something that's interesting to them. And so that is really what we're trying to do. And again, it really isn't about, gifted education isn't snobby or elitist. It isn't about withholding. It's about providing the experiences that these students need.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Makita, if you'll join us again and talk to the parents about what do they do to help their child?
So yes, what can we do to help our gifted children at home? And because sometimes we may feel inadequate sometimes to know how to support them because they're already operating at such a high level. I think earlier it was said that they have that minimum speed limit of 55, and so I want to just share with you a couple of things, especially, and these are some things that I've had to encounter as a parent of a gifted child. Definitely want to investigate, encourage them to investigate real world problems so that they operate and usually have a higher comprehension level than their peers. They can understand and grasp more complex ideas, situations and thoughts, and sometimes real world problems that are taking place. We want to promote exploration and discovery. Remember that they are still kids though. So discovery through play, experimenting, trying things out, let them use their imagination. Sometimes, and I will share with this has been a personal area of growth for me, because just like many of you, I'm sure you recognize in early childhood some of the characteristics that your child has that kind of gave you an indication that they were gifted or they were on a higher level thinking plane. But sometimes I had to remind myself that even though they're gifted in one area or they're operating, they have a higher conversation than other students and other kids their age, that they're not always gifted in every area. And so they have to have that opportunity to still be a kid. And so sometimes my son, he'll want to come get that Amazon box or get those water bottles and all that recyclable items. And, oh, can I go build this? Oh, I just had this great idea. Oh, Mom, I'm thinking about this. And as a parent, as a mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, all that junk is going to go in his room and it's going to get lost. But then I had to take a step back and remember that this is his way of expressing what's going on in his mind, him kind of acting it out, him putting that to use. And so looking for those opportunities when your child is excited about something and want to do a little bit more research. So you want to foster that. You can always turn to your local schools. We have many opportunities that are available to your students, but also your local libraries. We have the Rec Center has programs that will foster your child's interest and help them learn a little bit more and be hands-on. And also remember, we also live in a town that has multiple colleges and universities that have programs that will help foster that love for learning that your child has. And so the other part of that is allowing them time to reflect, because they do think and they think deeply, and giving them that time to reflect and think. And you'll be amazed at some of the conversations that you can have with your student, with your child, about what they're thinking about and what they're learning. But we also want to sharpen their social skills. So some of these things can kind of go hand in hand. So as they're investigating real world problems, or you're allowing them to explore and learn a little more deeply, connect them with other students who are interested in the same thing. Allow them to be with other students to or other kids their age to play and develop those social skills. Because again, remember that even though they are gifted in an area, does not mean that they are going to be excelling in all areas. And so sometimes they don't know all those skills right away. So they don't automatically inherently know life skills. Those are things that we have to kind of take time to teach and model for them, teaching them how to talk to each other, talk to classmates, talk to siblings, to model that for them, redirect and teach that for them. Also, you want to be attentive to your child's comments and observations. I think this is a really, really important one, because we see them academically and them progressing intellectually, but sometimes the emotional side of giftedness, we miss as parents. And sometimes because we are not maybe not necessarily focused and deliberate and focusing on the emotional social side, we miss when our child is trying to express to us that they're frustrated. Because again, if I'm a gifted child and if I'm 4th grade and I can read on a 12th grade level, I might get frustrated if I'm not as good in math, or I might get frustrated if I'm not physically talented. I'm not really good at sports. I might get frustrated when my parents expect me to be perfect in all areas, when my organizational skills are all over the place. That will frustrate them, and that can lead to other things: depression, underachievement. We want to make sure that we are providing them that listening ear to, and that we're paying attention to what's going on with them behind the academics and behind the giftedness. And so we want to make sure that and taking all these together, these are things that we can do at home as parents, even in engaging them in conversations in the car, at dinner, just to help them develop those communicational skills, and for them to be able to verbalize what's going on the inside, as well as strengthening their minds.
Thank you, Makita. So I do want to focus your attention on another resource that you're probably not even aware of, or even wondering why you would need this. But I do want you to know that North Carolina does have a definition of gifted students. And this definition is in law. It's called Article 9B. And I want to click on this just to show you real quickly. We have at the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, we do have an advanced learning department, and AIG is part of that. And there is a state definition, and this state definition does say that students perform or show the potential to perform at substantially high levels of accomplishment when compared with others of their age or their experiences or environment. And our gifted students exhibit high performance capability in intellectual areas, specific academic fields, or it could be both the intellectual and those academic. We do identify only in reading and math, but we also do recognize that children do have gifts in other areas, which is why that we try to do some interdisciplinary units and things like that. But the other part I want you to see is that it does say that outstanding abilities are present in students from all cultural groups. So we're really focused and honed in on making sure that we are looking at all children to determine who needs those accelerated or enriched experiences. But I did want you to know that that is out there, and that may be a place that you would want to go and just look at the site at North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, because there's a lot of good information there. What I love that's attached to our state definition is in the general statute, you will see that not only do we have a definition, we also have to recognize that we have to identify children as gifted in North Carolina, but we also have to provide them some type of a service for the fact that we're recognizing them as gifted. And I do point that out because there are states where they may decide, okay, this child's gifted, but we don't have to provide any services for them. So, or even the other way around, maybe we notice a child that needs a service, but we're not doing any type of identification. So I do love that about North Carolina. We also have AIG program standards, and those standards with practices are what makes up our AIG local plan. And you can find that local plan on the CCS website under our department. And the local plan is our gifted programming and what we do with the students in Cumberland County. And so I just wanted you to be aware of that information, because that is a resource for you in terms of always making sure that your child is getting what they need during school, outside of school, etc. So that is there for you, and I did want to just review that with you. So now I'm going to bring Bianca back on, and Bianca's going to talk to you about what we want to accomplish in Cumberland County Schools. So Bianca?
Yes, and as I tell you what Cumberland County Schools wants to accomplish, I want you to think about how you as a parent fits into our vision and our mission. So the AIG vision is AIG all day, every day. Cumberland County Schools, AIG challenges, inspires, and motivates gifted learners to collaborate, compete, and succeed in an ever-changing world. Our mission is to identify, advance, and empower gifted learners to become self-starters who question and pursue curiosities through meaningful, interest-based, challenging opportunities. Through talent development, we will inspire students' continuous exploration and discovery of potential, preparing tomorrow's leaders today. And Carrie's going to go on to myth 3.
So this is our final myth we're going to talk about this evening. Myth number 3. And we've kind of already alluded to some of this through some of our other things, but gifted children are good at everything they do. That's definitely something where for some that's widely accepted, but that's not the truth. The truth is we cannot assume that just because a child has that label that he excels at all subject areas, nor can we assume that he'll always have the right answers in the area of his or her giftedness. Now I want you to really think about that. Think about the fact that when you're talking to your child and you're expecting them, well, you're gifted in that area, you should know that. No, not necessarily. They still have things to learn. And sometimes, while we have to have high expectations, we also don't want to pressure them to the point where then they don't feel good about themselves and they don't feel good about what they're doing, because they might not always have all the right answers. Probably some of the time they're not going to. And sometimes in the other areas that they're not identified, that's an area where they might struggle or where they need some more assistance. So let's think about that a little bit more. So let's break it down. What does that mean exactly? So think about that. You know, there are some kids that are really good at some subject areas, but not so hot at others. So you think about your own self when you were a student. I think back to, for me, math. I thought, oh, I cannot do math. I cannot do math. But I was an excellent reader and I loved to read and I would spend my time doing that. But then people assumed that because I was gifted in reading, that I should know about everything that I read. And sometimes it goes back to when we're talking about being a fourth grader, reading on a 12th grade level. Well, you might be able to read on a 12th grade level, but that doesn't mean the content is appropriate for you. So there's just a lot with that. You know, the math whiz who always seems ahead of everyone may do poorly in social studies because he doesn't like to read the material or doesn't care about history. So these false assumptions can cause some unreal expectations. So I want you to think about your own children as you're thinking about this and just thinking, am I putting unreal expectations on the table? Like I said, we want high expectations, but let's hone in on that just a little bit more. And I'm going to ask Arisha to talk to you a little bit about what you can do to help your child in this area.
So what gifted kids want their parents to know? They want people to help them fail successfully. People say that it's okay to make mistakes, but their words and actions can be inconsistent. Often expectations are unwavering in seeking perfection. I think about a recent Girl Scout camp trip I took with my daughter. It was her first time trying archery, and she struggled to hit the target, but I stood beside her, and every time she shot the arrow, I said, "That's great. Next time, get it a little bit further, get it a little bit further." Eventually, she hit the target, not the bullseye, but she got there. Earlier, you heard us talk about being your child's first coach, and that's the role I believe that I was playing at this Girl Scout camp. We can't just tell our kids that it's okay to make mistakes. We have to help nurture the environment, make it safe for them to fail. We're not always going to be with our kids. I know that's sad to think about, but we want to give them the tools and the skills that they will need to stand strong in the world. We have to model it. So we have to explain how you recover after you make mistakes, emphasize effort and progress rather than perfection, and show your child how errors can be opportunities to discover and learn.
So Makita's going to read this quote to you, and then I have a short video I'd like to show you to just kind of tie all of that together. Makita?
All right, bright kids go to school and never encounter anything that makes them extend effort. They grow up thinking being smart means they don't have to work very hard. The first time they encounter something difficult, they think they are not smart enough.
Okay, I want you to know that I've been in gifted education for 30 years, and this is tough right here. This is tough to think about, that we have kids thinking that they're not smart because they can't do something. And so that's where we come in as teachers and as their parent and their coach, is we want them to encounter things that are difficult, and we want them to have productive struggle. So I want to show you this video. It's about 3 minutes, and let me optimize. Okay, here we go.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how we built a $50 million coaching company with one.
The other day, my daughter and I were out in the driveway, and she brought out the skateboard. I'm thinking to myself, oh no, what's going to happen here? She lowered her eyes, and she looked at me with one foot on the skateboard and the other foot getting ready to push. And she said, "Dad, can you help me?" I said, "Kylie, I can't help you. You got to ride the skateboard on your own." And so she took her foot, put it on the board, pushed off, and the board flew ahead, and she had nothing that she could do. She just sat there, sullen, upset that she couldn't ride the skateboard. I walked over, hopped on it, showed her how to push with one foot, and said, "Go ahead, Kylie. It's your turn again to try." She was being a typical 6-year-old and looked up to me and said, "No, Dad, I want you to push me. I can't do it." And I looked down at her and said, "Yes, you can. How many times Do our kids, do adults, do anybody look at us and say, I can't do it? I tried one time and it didn't work. It would have been easy for me to get both her feet on the board, give her a little push down the driveway, and watch her roll off into the grass and everything be safe. But I'd already done that, and she wasn't going to learn by me giving her a little push again, the same thing over and over again. She had to get out of her comfort zone and try something that she wasn't successful at and she was failing at a couple of times. This made her upset, angry, but more so, it made her feel like she couldn't be successful because she wasn't on the first try. This is what a lot of people talk about in schools, that we don't allow for failure in schools. We say in real life, like situations like this, Kylie, my daughter, didn't have a chance to just go on and move on. She had to sit there and figure it out herself and fail along the way in order to be successful. Just like in real life, there's lots of times where we're not successful on the first attempt. Here's the problem though. I know our recent culture of startups and Apple saying fail forward has everybody saying that failure is a good thing. And I get that. However, when we look at learning, failure has a finality to it, while failing is part of the process. We don't really want our kids to fail. We want them to succeed through iterations, through making mistakes and having failings along the way, not just one failure that has them stop at the end of it. I often talk about skateboarding when I talk about the difference between failure and failing. There's a big difference. So if you're at a skate park and you fall down, it's celebrated. People expect you to fail and get back up and try again. In fact, your friends are there videoing, watching you fail time and time again. There's a video I show of a skateboarder falling 17 times before he lands the trick. It is both not only celebrated, but it's also praised and supported by everybody in the community that failing is part of the process of learning how to skateboard, learning a new trick, and getting back up and trying again. I was definitely
Okay, so just thinking about that productive struggle and working towards a growth mindset, that's what we want to do with our gifted learners. I just wanted to kind of review for you very quickly the parent resources. There were 3 different articles tonight that we used when we were putting together the presentation. One is Gifted Challenges, How to Challenge the Gifted Child at Home, and Helping Your Gifted Child Succeed. These are things that we will make sure that we put these in on our AIG site on the Cumberland County Schools page. That way you will have these if for these parent resources. But if you want to jot down the websites, definitely 3 things that you would definitely want. NCAGT, North Carolina Association of Gifted and Talented Children. That is that's the North Carolina. That's where we go once every year annually, and we learn all about state resources for AIG. And actually this year, the AIG Teacher of the Year for Cumberland County Schools, Jennifer Center, was actually recognized as a state level winner at NCAGT this year, and that was exciting. She's our state winner for grades 6 through 12 as the Outstanding Teacher of the Year for North Carolina. Huge accolade for her. And then NAGC is the National Association of Gifted Children, and they have a lot of parent resources on there, things that may be helpful for you as you're working with your gifted child at home. And then a website that I have enjoyed using called Exquisite Minds. And on this website, there are things for educators, but there's also some things for parents, and it also lists some books that you may like or may enjoy getting to reference. One of the ones that I know we've used a survival guide for gifted kids, but there is one called the Survival Guide for Parents, and it's talking about how to understand, live with, and stick up for your gifted child. So that may be something that you would be interested in looking at. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Arisha to let her kind of wrap this up in thinking about your gifted child.
Okay, you all, so if you will pull up those photos again that you pulled up from earlier in the session, or if there's a new photo you'd rather look at right now, but find a photo of your child. And we would like for you to reflect on tonight's session and think about ways that you can support your gifted student. And in the chat box, we would like for you to type, what stuck with you? And you can press enter when you're ready. As our chat box starts to fill up, you guys take a moment just to scroll through and see what other people are saying. Maybe something that stuck with them. Wasn't something that stuck with you, but now you see it again and you want to give it a second thought. Maybe it's going to spark a question for you that you would like to ask later on in the session. Someone said, I'm glad to know that my student is not the only one struggling with the organization. That's a biggie.
Advisory team, and I'm going to be selecting a new team for next school year, I can't believe I'm going to say 2021, 2022, but there is a form where we'd like to see if you're interested in participating on our parent advisory team, and we'll be selecting that, like say, to start for next school year. And I think someone was going to put that link in the chat for you. If not, it definitely will be on our CCS website as well. And this will just be a team that is going to help make some decisions about other opportunities of classes or courses that you all may be interested in, and also helping us as we are rewriting our AIG local plan next school year. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open this up for, one second. Open it up for any questions that you all might have.